side. Murphy shooting, save a rebound on the view.
Hey guys, it is Red Rubber Duckwind, and welcome to day 13, an extremely late day 13 of the 2023 March Madness charity drive for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. The link to donate is in the description below. And let's not waste any more time because this is for the Wednesday, March 8 games. Yes, I know it's over 2 weeks late, but I bit off a little more than I could chew, so the best thing I could do is catch up. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the scores. Starting off with the Atlantic 10. Now, Davidson Wildcats defeated the St. Bonaventure Bonnies 65-54. The Wildcats would move on to take on the top seed of VCU. George Mason defeated Richmond 62-57, and the Patriots would take on the St. Louis Billikens. St. Joseph's continued their run against George Washington 87-76. They would go up against the Dayton Flyers. And LaSalle upset the Duquesne Dukes 81-70 and ended the Dukes season early. And LaSalle would get a date with Fordham. We now go to the ACC as Wake Forest defeated Syracuse 77-74. And the Demon Deacons would earn a date with the top-seeded Miami Hurricanes. The Pitt Panthers would defeat Georgia Tech 89-81. And Pittsburgh would go up against Duke. North Carolina defeated Boston College 85-61. And the Tar Heels, the defending national runners-up, would go up against Virginia. And then North Carolina State defeated Virginia Tech 97-77. And NC State would go on to face Clemson. We now go to the Mountain West as Colorado State defeated Fresno State 67-65. The Rams would go on to face the top seed San Diego State. UNLV defeated Air Force 78-70 in overtime, and the Running Rebels would go up against Boise State. New Mexico defeated Wyoming 87-76, and the Lobos would look to keep their season alive when they face Utah State. We now go to the SWAC as Grambling State defeated Bethune-Cookman 87-72, and they would take on the winner of Jackson State or Prairie View A&M. And Texas Southern, the two-time defending SWAC champions, would upset the top-seeded Alcorn State 66-62, and the Tigers would go on to face either Southern or Alabama A&M. We now go to the Big East as St. John's defeated Butler 76-63, as the Red Storm would go on to face top-seeded Marquette. DePaul defeated Seton Hall 66-65, thus earning the Blue Demons a date with Xavier. Villanova would defeat Georgetown 80-48, and Villanova would go up against Creighton. We now go to the Pac-12 as Colorado defeated Washington 74-68, and the Buffaloes would get a date with top-seeded UCLA. Washington State would go on to beat California 69-52. Nice. And the Cougars would go on against the Oregon Ducks. Stanford defeated Utah 73-62, and the Cardinal gets a date with Arizona, the defending Pac-12 champions. Arizona State defeated Oregon State 63-57, and the Sun Devils would take on USC. We now go to the MEAC as Howard defeated South Carolina State 91-55, and the Bison would take on either Maryland Eastern Shore or Morgan State. North Carolina Central beat Delaware State 89-59, and the Eagles would have a date with the winner of Norfolk State or Coppin State. We now go to the Big Ten as the Ohio State Buckeyes finally win something as they beat Wisconsin 65-57, and the Buckeyes would get a date with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Minnesota would beat Nebraska 78-75. The Golden Gophers would go on to take on Maryland. We now go to Conference USA as Western Kentucky beat UTEP 73-67. The Hilltoppers would go up against the top seed Florida Atlantic. Louisiana Tech defeated FIU 81-76 in overtime, and the Bulldogs would go on a date with the Mean Green of North Texas. Rice would beat UTSA 72-71, and the Owls would move on to face UAB, the defending Conference USA champions. We now go to the Big 12 as West Virginia defeated Texas Tech 78-62, and the Mountaineers would get a date with the reigning defending undisputed national champions Kansas. We now go to Oklahoma State defeating Oklahoma 57-49, and the Cowboys would move on to take on Texas. We now go to the SEC as Ole Miss beat South Carolina 67-61, and the Ole Miss Rebels would go on a date with Tennessee. We now go to LSU beating Georgia 72-67, and the Tigers would go up against Vanderbilt. We now go back to the MAC with 2As as top seed Iona defeated Mount St. Mary's 74-54, and the Gales would go on to take on either Siena or Niagara. Last year's Cinderella, St. Peter's, would upset the number 2 seed Rider 70-62, and the Peacocks would take on either Quinnipiac or Marist. We now go to our conference championships. We got 3 of them for Wednesday, March 8th. The Southland Championship was first as Texas A&M Corpus Christi beat Northwestern State 75-71. The Islanders have made it back-to-back in the Southland Conference. And as I said in the first 4 recap, they ended up earning a 16 seed and they ended up winning. And they would go on to face Alabama. We now go to the Patriot League Championship as number 1 Colgate defeated Lafayette 79-61. As the Colgate Raiders made it 3 straight Patriot League titles and 3 straight trips to the NCAA tournament. And finally, we got the Big Sky Championship as Montana State beat the Cinderella Northern Arizona 85-78. The Montana State Bobcats make it back-to-back Big Sky titles and trips to the NCAA tournament. So that's going to do it for the March 8th recap. I know it is about 16 days late, but unfortunately, I had a lot of stuff going on, so I'll explain what I'm going to be doing for after the national championship, because I'm going to be going live for the Final Four and national championship on Saturday and Monday. So there's that. So please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does take me ages to make one of these videos, so I hope you understand. And once again, I'm Red Rover Duckland. Until we meet again, I'll catch you guys later.